Hey everyone, we have an important lesson on factoring today, so let's get right to it. First thing that you need to know is why factored form. So here's a quadratic, and factored form basically looks like two binomials multiplied to one another. So here's x plus 4 times x minus 5. To make a long story short, if you look at the zeros of this function, x equals -4, x equals 5, the x-intercepts, those line up with the factors. Now this factor says x plus 4. The 0 is x equals -4. That's because -4 plus 4 is 0. And then x equals 5 is another x-intercept. And that's because if I substitute it here in the second factor, 5 minus 5 gives me 0. So that's the reasoning behind factored form. If you know the factors, you know the zeros. If you know the zeros, you know the factors. All right. But one of our biggest struggles with this is actually coming up with the factored form itself. So here's a quadratic in standard form, x squared minus 6x minus 16. In order to factor this, we need to use the AC method. And usually when a equals 1, you can use an even easier method, but we're going to keep an AC method to be consistent with every single factoring problem today. So what's the AC method? That means take your a value, which is 1, take your c value, which is -16, and multiply them together. What do you get? -16. Take your b value, -6. Now, your AC is going to be the product of two numbers. Your b value is going to be the sum of two numbers. So I want you to think, it's like a riddle. What two numbers have a product of -16 and a sum of -6? All right, well, let's use the box method to check that. What two numbers have a product of -16, if you remember from using the box, -16 goes there, and also have a sum of -6. Well, if you think about that closely, those two numbers are -8 and +2. When you multiply them, you get -16. When you add them, you get -6. So what you're going to do is you're going to fill in these diagonals. This one's going to be -8x. This one's going to be +2x. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to find factors. All right, so what number will go into both -8 and -16? Well, that's -8. So this is fairly straightforward. What number will go into 2 and -16? Well, that number is 2. All right, and we're assuming we already know that we had an x squared right here, whose factors are x and x. So I really worked this backwards, and I found that the factored form of this quadratic is x minus 8 times x plus 2. Again, that's the AC method. The AC method can get a little more involved if our a value is anything other than 1, which you're going to see in the next video.